All right, we are live. So I'm here talking to Sierra. We were just having a conversation. We're actually going to talk again after this because I think it's time Sierra needs to get her podcast going. We're just going to go ahead and put that out into the world. But we were talking about being empaths and kind of absorbing other people's energies. I was just explaining to her, times are weird right now, and I think sometimes we can really take on a lot of other people's shit, and so it's a really good time to kind of ground yourself. And what I was saying to her was the day that they kind of announced like everybody's going to be homebound, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about how some people are taking it more serious than others, and we can kind of chat about that because I think that's a very heated topic right now, and I like to have those kinds of conversations. Not everybody does, but I kind of lean towards those. It's like somebody needs to have that conversation, right? Anyways, so for me personally, doing a little bit more grounding, I had told her, my morning routine is a great starter, but I find that like halfway through my day, I have to find something else to reground me because I'm absorbing that energy like all day long. So whether it's walking outside barefoot or just going for a walk for like a midday yoga or midday meditation. So that's kind of what we started talking about before I hit record here. So what are your thoughts on all of that? What have you been doing to ground yourself?
Yeah. So I think that like just in general, there's so much going on and we have to like just take day by day. I've learned throughout like my process, like it's almost like being with children. Something that works one day is like not working for me at all the next day. So I've had to get like super intuitive and then like also super creative with it. And then there's been so much of me like having to force myself into the space of really making sure that I stay there. So yeah, one of the things that I found for me that's been super helpful is that like I've carved out at least like tell myself it's an hour every day. We're like moving into probably like 3 hours every day where I just like find myself in a space of being able to like dive into my meditation. I've been doing a lot of sound healing with myself, a lot of like clearing with different kinds of smudging and things of that nature. But I also know that like 3 hours is not realistic for most people to dive into it. But 30 minutes every day just like really makes such a difference. And so I've just kind of been moving, I don't know, into that space and just really trying to allow myself to listen to my needs and make sure that I'm filling myself up. Because yeah, we never know what's going to happen. Even it's at this point, it's like hour to hour. We're getting updates. So it's like everything is like in a consistent space of change. And I think that that's where I'm like grounding myself in. It's like getting comfortable with how fast things are moving and just like the frequency of the collective in general.
Yeah, which we can talk about that too, because I feel like our country is very split, is very divided. Hell, even in my household, it's pretty divided on opinions,
Yeah.
I suppose that kind of makes the yin and the yang, but we were kind of talking about how there's certain parties or certain individuals, certain humans that are taking this more seriously than others. I think I've come across, and I was like this about a month ago when it started kind of coming up. I was like, this isn't, like, I feel like people immediately go to like panic and fear. And my go-to is like, everything will work itself out. Like I'll worry about it when it's time to worry about it. And well, now it's kind of time to worry about it. And I don't even like the word worry. Now it's time to be cautious and be proactive is kind of the things that come to mind for me. And so with that being said, I do very much see a lot of people who are like, oh, it's no big deal. This isn't going to affect me. And this is where I feel like, and maybe this is just my opinion, but this is where it is a collective. It's bigger than you and me. And we're not doing this because like me personally, I don't think that I'm going to be infected or affected by this. But that's not to say my son isn't, or my daughter isn't, or my mother, or my sick grandma, or somebody who I love very, very dearly who may not have the immune system that I have. And I feel like I take very good care of myself, but not everybody has that opportunity or that ability. And so it's selfish of us to be going out and exposing whatever. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I feel like that's a very aggressive stance in some sense.
No, it makes so much sense. And I love that you used the word selfish, because I think that that's the thing is, yeah, you know, me and you, we may not be affected by it. And if we do get sick, you know, we're healthy individuals. It doesn't mean that we can't, you know, develop into something that's more serious. But for the most part, we're fine. But that's the thing is that's where we sit in that selfish energy, because you know, even when you say like, I may not be affected, and then you do the list of all the people that may, well, then you're affected by it because someone that you love is dealing with it. And so I think that we're all just like in this space of, one, it's scary. And like, let's just like fucking call it what it is. We're in a time that we've never experienced this before. So how are we supposed to navigate it? And so I think that it's just, you know, it can be so complicated, and like we can read all about it and we can see the statistic, who's affected, who's not. But at the end of the day, we're all receiving the same simple thing, and it's just stay home. Like we're not being sent out to a really dangerous space. You know, we're being sent home, and then those who have safe homes should be so appreciative of that on its own. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it. And also, it's kind of funny to me because, like, let's rewind 2 months. How many people do you know that are like, God, I just wish I could fucking stay home? And it's like, we have started this.
And that's what I say. I'm like, you ask and you shall receive. Everybody complains, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. Well, the universe has gifted you an abundance of time. How are you going to use it? You know, and it's very interesting because I see people complain about it. And my husband is one of the quote unquote essential workers. So essentially he is working double time while everybody else is staying home. And I'm like, damn it. Like, we were so good at staying home. Now you have to go off and be essential. Like,
yeah, exactly. You know? And that's like another thing is we're all going through it, but everyone's going through it on a completely different scale. Like, you know, every single person's dealing with it, whether you're like an extremist in a sense that it's happening and like we're all gonna get like death off the hill, or you're an individual that's like, this is fake, and this is all the conspiracy. Either way, we're all being affected by it.
Absolutely.
So it's like, what are the people doing about it? You know, I have like all these like deep thoughts that go on of like, you know, how is this improving humanity? And like, are people starting to wake up? And what are you growing into? And like, what are you feeding? Is it that negative energy? And like, is that going to follow you once we're out of our homes? Or have you been watering yourself in the best way? Come out, like you alone, just make a difference in the world. And
I love that because, you know, what's even funny, I saw on the news, and I'm not a big news watcher, but my husband is. So, and even every now and then, like I turn on the TV and it's just on, right? Like it's on every station. So we've been actually watching movies lately to kind of avoid the news or just not have the TV on at all. Like we're sitting in our living room, we have a blank TV on, like there's no need for it to be on 24/7.
100%.
But that's, but what I was going to say is, you know, I did pop it on a few times and I see that they're talking about, shit you not, teaching people on mainstream media how to meditate, how to journal, how to work through your emotions, how to ground yourself, how to sit in silence, how to work with your hands, how to interact with your children. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
no, it's like such simple things.
It is, but I love
it seems so foreign to people.
It does. But I guess me and you are people probably who are listening to this too have been practicing that kind of stuff for quite a while. And this is the things that, you know, we try to tell people, but you don't really want to like tell people what to do, but you can like hint at, okay, well, this is what I do. And now it's like the things that people think are crazy or hippie woo woo are what is helping people work through this. And I think that as a, you know, going back to the word of collective or that oneness, this is how we're going to kind of work together and get through this. Sorry, I have my child here and he's really into growl. Well, just for people who are listening, I'm not like growling underneath. Like, we have a baby here because that's just how it works today, huh? So, but yes, anyways, so what are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, I mean, I think that, there's like another thing that like I keep receiving whenever I like tap into the energy of like the collective as a whole, which I try, like if I'm being super honest, I try to keep myself out of that space, but there's like so
Uh-huh.
much curiosity in me that like wants to see how we're navigating through it. So I keep finding myself there. And I
Mhm.
received like a really cool download not that long ago that just speaks so true to me. And so, you know, naturally as individuals, we adapt to our surroundings, you know, and so those of us who live in like the Midwestern-ish areas, or like anyone who lives through the 4 seasons, we start moving with the 4 seasons super naturally. So whether like we're in spring or winter or summer, like whatever it is, that's where we're flowing. And so you don't have to be tapped in to be able to move in with this energy.
Absolutely.
If you're alive, you go through it. And so we're coming out of winter, right? And so all of us naturally, we're just like so nesting in to like our cozy space, and like the nights were so much longer, and like no one wanted to go out. And so, you know, now we're moving into spring and it's starting to get nicer. And then very like organically, we start traveling back outside. And so
Yeah.
that's just our natural flow. And so now we're being told that we're not allowed to go to that space. And so it feels really, really foreign to us being told what to do in general, but then especially when we naturally want to be somewhere. So it really is putting a very uncomfortable energy into people. But what I feel that uncomfortable energy is most is yeah, it's us sitting with ourselves, and like, why am I so comfortable with the fact that I have to sit in solitude or alone or things of that nature. And, you know, I have a lot of conversations with clients that I start working with at the beginning who will express to me how like meditation can be something that's like really intimidating to them because they're not sure where they go, if they go somewhere, if they're going to do it right, how they're going to feel after. And like also healing isn't the most exciting time of our lives. I think everyone who goes through healing, they're like yeah,
after the fact.
Yeah, it's like that was pretty rough. And so there's hesitation. And a lot of people are moving into this for the first time. So anyone who's listening, I would just like definitely encourage, just like take the first step and like allow yourself to like just drop into that space. And like 100% it's going to feel foreign and funny if like you've never done it before. But like, don't let that stop you the same way like you haven't taken jumps for, you know, new jobs or relationships or things of that nature. So yeah, I think that it's like super important for people to step into that space. But then I'm like, in the same breath, I too don't like to tell people what to do. And I believe that like everyone shows up when they're supposed to. But I'm out there encouraging it. I'm encouraging it deeply.
See, and I love that word encourage. It means to inspire courage in someone else to take action. And really that's all that we do each and every day, because you can tell somebody what to do, but then that creates resistance. Like if I were to say, Sierra, you need to go do this, this, and this, you'd kind of like under your breath probably be like, fuck you, Sasha. You know, but if I'm like, hey, I'm out there and I'm doing all the push-ups and it's making me feel like this, you could do it too. And you'd be like, oh, maybe I could. You know, you just have a different mindset about it. So
100%. But yeah, it's just a weird fucking time.
It is definitely a weird time. So I know you said something about working with your clients. And so I do want to talk about this because I feel like you have a gift. I mean, I don't feel like, I know you have a gift, and I want to share that with our listeners and how you came to receive that gift, what it came to you like, how you kind of worked through that, and how you kind of turned it into how you're serving others now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, I mean, to start this story, we have to go like really far back. So yeah,
we got time. We got time.
I think my very first like actual, like, I don't know, memory that sticks out most when it comes to the work I do, I was probably around 5 when I had like my actual first memory. My mom will tell you that it probably goes back further. My dad will just tell you I was a weird child. So I started encountering energy from the other side at a pretty young age, coming from Iowa, where spirituality and enlightenment and things of that nature just like aren't necessarily the norm, so they're not talked about. It was a really interesting childhood for me. I was scared all the time. I mean, I was like the biggest scaredy cat, which I think is funny. Like when I look back on my journey, it's just like funny that this was planted.
What scared
me.
you? Like things that you heard and saw, or like what other people said to you?
Yeah, no. So it was a lot of like, so at a young age, our home was super haunted. And so being able to feel the energies and the spirits and to like hear people in my basement or upstairs or like whatever it was really, really uncomfortable. And when I was really young, I just like, I never wanted to be alone. And so it kind of shifted and moved. And, you know, as I was like growing up a little bit around like, you know, the 13 teenager years, I refused to stay home alone. I was always getting, messages through dreams, and it didn't make sense to me. And I could feel things so intensely and no one else could feel it. Like no one else could see it. And so there was no like validation for me. So like, then you like go through this whole phase of like, am I fucking crazy? Like what is going on? And then you're so alone. And I'm a young teenage girl in Iowa. And so, you know, I kind of like learned how to shut some of it off, but like throughout my entire upbringing, I always lived in haunted homes. And so it wasn't until I was like 18, I had this random person kind of come up to me and they were like, hey, you're not haunted, or your homes aren't haunted. It's you. And I was like, oh, cool. Like that's really, really comforting. And it was random. And that was kind of like,
thanks, guy.
Yeah, it was kind of like the start of all the random encounters that I started receiving through that. You know, I had a pretty intense experience when I was around 18 with a lot of energy that like I was very uncomfortable with. And that was really the start of it, which I look back and I laugh now about how my beginning phases were all pretty scary in my mind, or, you know, I talk to other people and they agree that it's scary. But I'm so stubborn and like, I'm such an individual that like, I have to be kind of like slapped with it in order to like, okay, sounds good. This is what it is. This is how my life is going to move. And so, you know, when I had first met you, I was 18, 19 years old and shit was crazy. I wasn't sleeping at night. Things were uncomfortable. I'm picking up on information, strangers. I don't know why I know things. It's just like all over the place. I'm like crying a lot at home to my mom. She doesn't know how to help. Life is just kind of all over the place. And then it wasn't until I really moved to Denver and it was like a breath of fresh air. I was all of a sudden like surrounded by individuals who also had same kind of encounters and experiences, and were starting to like speak of this language that somehow brought a lot of comfort to me and like brought this whole new sense of understanding lightly. And so it was really from there I started seeing a psychic reader, and the first thing she said to me when I sat down was like, I mean, she went into a lot, but she was like, will you read me next? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't do that. And she's like, no, you have no idea that you can do that. And I'm like, yeah. No. And so I pushed back for, you know, a couple of years.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And so I denied it. It was a whole sense of denial, a whole sense of, you know, not trusting the messages I was receiving, not trusting myself, not sharing it with anyone. And then I don't know what happened. I started really diving into it. And one day, and I joke about it, I had like a coming out party, and I was like, hey, everybody, I'm a psychic and this is what I do. And I also talk to dead people. It's super bizarre. Who wants a reading? This is how you get a hold of me. And
then me, I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah, you were. And I remember my mom calling me the next day, and she hadn't seen it. And she was like, so you announced to the world today or yesterday? And I was like, yeah, I guess I did. I shut my phone off after.
That's what I did too when I first was like, I'm running a business. Shut everything off and run.
I'm done. Yeah. And so, you know, from there, it's just been such a cool experience. And I haven't found anything up to this point that has made me feel more myself, more in tuned, more at home in my body. It's such a cool experience to be able to sit with someone and to be able to have that channeling and to be able to find solutions for, you know, things that are blocking in their life, or be able to like connect them with loved ones who have crossed over, and like being able to feel that for them. It's just, it's a powerful thing. And I know that it's not for everyone. And I get a lot of backlash, and I get a lot of individuals who have their opinions and want to share with me what they want. And I receive it all with love, because I think at the end of the day, the feelings and the emotions and the power that comes behind this gift, that I have no idea how it was planted into me. It outweighs everything. So I take that and I let it balance, and it keeps me humble, which I laugh about a lot. But yeah, it's definitely non-traditional, but I don't know, there's a lot of healing, there's a lot of beauty, and there's a lot of hope that comes from it. So there's
Absolutely.
just no way I'm stopping, you know, just no way.
Well, and I think that comes with anything that you are, you know, 100% committed to. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you're just like, you just have to make that inner conscious decision of like, no, this is my life's path, and nobody is going to stop me. And I like to think that people in general don't mean ill will towards anybody.
Yeah.
It's just their own beliefs or fears coming up, and they're like projecting them onto you. Or it's not exactly, they weren't at a time and space to accept whatever it was that you were giving them. So therefore they're rejecting it with anger or with hate or with whatever emotion is coming. And you just have to know that, like, I don't think that that's, and you probably know this, and I have to remind myself, like, okay, that's not directed at me, even though it may feel like it's very much personal. It's something that they're going through, and I can't make anybody feel a certain way. They're the only person in control of their feelings, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and I never, I think one of like the main things that when I share with people what I do, they automatically are like, oh, you're reading me, or, oh, she does like scary, dark stuff, or like whatever it may be. And
see, I didn't even think of that. People probably do go like dark side or whatever.
Yeah. Oh,
it.
That's like
interesting.
That's the main thing. And then I just like kind of laugh, and like when I get like really, really harsh things from people, and they like claim names or call me or put me in a category, I'm like, well, if you are so afraid of what I do, it's like very ballsy of you to reach out and share your opinion.
Yeah.
Like, but okay, like that's fine. But yeah, and I think so many people have this like kind of idea that, yeah, I'm going to tap into everything they're thinking and take advantage of it. And it's just like as simple as, I got my own shit going on. Like I'm not tapping into everyone else and trying to figure out my own shit. So, yeah, no, none of that.
Well, and there comes a permission with it too, isn't there? Because I mean, the psychic readings that I've had, they always ask for permission to work with a specific energy. And you have to almost, I mean, not that like, I'm sure that there is probably psychics out there, just like there is in any industry, that probably take advantage. But I think a one that, or a quality you could look for is like asking permission to work with your energy. And like, what is it that you, like, is there anything in specific? And maybe you can kind of walk us through that process and how you work with clients. Now he's pissed.
Like, what's going on? I need attention. Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to be like super honest with you. It comes very, very naturally. There's not a whole lot of preparation that I need to do. There's not a whole lot of, I don't really like run through like a prep. Once I know that like permission has been given, once we start with the exchange, and by that, I mean, like if someone reaches out and they're like, hey, I want a reading, that's permission, right? They're allowing that. But I do always open for individuals that if something does come up and they don't want to discuss it, like nothing offends me. Like, just tell me no. Like, this isn't for me. And like, I have no idea what's coming. Once I sit down and start with someone, I just get really hot. And then I know, okay, cool. We're about to really dive into things. And so I don't know what we're going to be diving into. It just kind of flows. And so, yeah, anything that comes up and people don't want to discuss. And then also when loved ones come through, I always ask if they want to hear from those individuals. And I've only gotten one no. And so it's cool, and you just send them on their way, and it's like, all right, sounds good. They don't want to hear from you.
I like that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, all of it, I again, none of it's for me, right? And so I want the individual to feel as like comfortable as possible while being able to go through it. And then also, I forget a reading after I give it. Like the information doesn't stay with me because it's not mine. So that's another thing. A lot of people will have this like kind of fear based around, oh God, she knows all of my deep rooted information. But I don't. I mean, I do for a moment and then it fades and then I have no idea what we talked about. And like 30 minutes after a session, it's gone. So yeah, it's, I don't know. It's so bizarre. It's just so bizarre.
I love that. So do you remember the first time you did a reading?
You know what? I do. And
maybe not like the what happened, but like how you felt. I mean, you don't have to, I don't even know if you'll remember who it was, but like.
No, it was, it was really, really strange. It was actually, everything started with my family. They were the only people that I was, felt safe enough around to like share things. And, one of my family members, before I had met him, had passed away. And all of a sudden I just like knew so much information about him one night when I was sitting next to my aunt, and I started asking her, and then the next thing I knew, I was like sharing a lot of information. And when I was done, I mean, it was really emotional for her. And when I was done, I remember just like going into my room and just like crying for hours and just being like, that was intense. Why did I know that? What's going on? And then I was really drained. Oh, the beginning stages. It was like I'd give a reading and then it would open up and then everything would come through for like 3 days. I didn't sleep that entire time. And then I would like crash on day 4. And so, yeah, I think, that first time though, I'm such a curious individual. And so, I would have a lot of like intensities, and then I'd have a lot of like beautiful moments like that one when I shared with my aunt, or like random things would show up and it would be really, really profound. And like, that was just like enough to keep me going. And so even though there was so much dark, anytime I got a glimpse of the peace through it, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to keep going because there's something about this that like I keep wanting to move towards.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of individuals to have those conversations with at the time, which also is segueing into a little bit of my mentorship program. It's a huge reason why I have developed the mentorship programs, because I think that for me, I went through my journey exactly the way I needed to, and it all makes sense. But for other individuals, I know so many people who have shared that they shut it off because a lot of things show up and they don't know how to navigate it, and there's a lot of discomfort. And so I just try to be that individual to help guide people into a more peaceful state with all of this. Because I do believe that there's a lot that we can unlock once we start tuning in with ourselves.
Absolutely. I love that. So I have a couple questions before we kind of get into the ins and outs of your mentorship program, because I've seen you talk about this and I'm probably just as curious as anybody else listening to this. But so my big question though is how do you receive this information? I've heard some people like just get a download of words or like stories or images, or like, how do you receive information?
So it has shifted. But it's almost been a full year that I've been working with this new energy. So before it was my guides, and it was just kind of download information, right? But everything kind of, and this may sound strange, especially for some of the people who may not know a lot about this. It was almost like I'd get my information from like behind my shoulders, if that makes sense. Like it was like they were back there sharing.
Like whispering behind you kind of thing. Like, listen to this.
Yeah. And then like sharing things, which is how I receive information when I cross over with like when loved ones are crossed over and share, they always sit behind my shoulders. And they just whisper information. And then it was about a year ago, I received a new, partner, which is funny. My work partners are ones that you cannot see. But it's like imaginary friends, right?
I love it though.
Yeah. So I started working, she's a Native American goddess. She worked with the Lakota tribe on rebirth harmony. She did a lot of things. Her name is White Buffalo Calf Woman.
I love her already.
Yeah,
I love her already.
She's all things good. But what's funny is, no, she's blunt. She's so to the point. She's so aggressive, which works so well with me. But
I was
there
gonna
will
say
be
she's
so
my
many,
people.
yeah. When I'll be like sitting with an individual and I know that they're like sit more of on like an emotional sensitive side, and she'll come through and just say something. So I'm like, damn girl, I can't tell her that. It's like, hold on, let me think of a nicer way to share that information. But so yeah, she comes through and she's always eager to just kind of pop in and share. And so it doesn't take much. I don't have to call in on her. It's almost like an energy understanding between the two. Once I kind of sit down and get into my breath work, she shows up, she shares, and yeah, the information just kind of presents itself, which is a weird thing. And it's also like one of those things that a lot of people want more of an understanding on. And it's one of those, I just encourage them to maybe try it for themselves, because it's really hard to explain that side.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we've all had an experience in some point in time where it's like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this is a good analogy, maybe this isn't, but like, you'll just be like walking around sometime and all of a sudden like an idea will pop in your head and it just seems like really random, but it'll be like super, super detailed. Or all of a sudden you'll have like deja vu, like you felt like you've been here before and you know these people and you know exactly what's going to happen. Or maybe, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this.
No, it's all of us. And that's the thing is, you know, in my mentorship program, I have a few different, programs set up for individuals. And one of them is, as we like move a little bit further in, it goes into more of like a spiritual course. And that's what I encourage people to listen to. And like, that's what we're looking for, is like those little whispers. And then once you receive one, what do you do with that information? And then like, how did your energy shift when that information came to you? And like, how did you feel inside? And like, it can be weird, you know, like you can get tingles in your fingers or like something in your nose. And it's just like, okay, those are the parts of you that you really need to start paying attention to. And then seeing if it's consistent when you keep getting the whispers. And then that alone strengthens the trust and then receiving the message. And so
I love that.
Yeah. And so there's, you know, it's one of my favorite things. I think that we all have growth in us, and I think that we all should be working towards getting ourselves into more of a space of self-love and understanding, and whatever that looks like to each person. And if there's any ways that I can help, there's like nothing that excites me more than just that process.
So when you first got started, did you just do like one-on-one consultations and now you're mostly doing mentorship programs, or do you kind of do both? Or
so I offer both. There's absolutely no way in hell I'll ever stop giving readings. It's just like, there's no way. I don't know. It's just such a unique experience to go through. And I think being able to do it anywhere from like 15 to 20 times a week, man, I don't know. It's just, why would you quit that? Why would you stop? You know? And so there's just no way. But so the mentorship program has always been a one-on-one. I did work with a couple once, which was a really, really fun experience to go through. That was more on like the basic awareness, where we dive into less stress, self-love, releasing, and then receiving. And then that was really cool because we kind of teamed it up as it being something that also strengthened their relationship, brought out a lot of vulnerability. It was really cool to be a part of. And then I also have a mentorship program where it's all about diving into spirituality, and that's like unlocking, and that's a lot of self-love, a lot of diving into trust. And then there's like a lot of meditation with it, and just being able to guide and navigate. And that one's a very intuitive process. So when I'm dealing with my clients, I'm tuning in the entire time. So if there's any messages that need to come through to help strengthen the practices, or anything that we need to release of, that comes along with it. So that's really fun. And then I have a program that's just like super unique to like what individuals need. So if someone's like, I need healing from a relationship, or past trauma, or, you know, whatever is going on in their walking life, I have lots of tools. There's lots of writing, lots of meditating. And then there's a lot of things that we start implementing in the daily life that bring consistency, that then just all of a sudden become a way of life.
I love that. So did you experience any other like struggles, challenges, triumphs, anything in this last like year or two when you started your business?
Yeah, so lots of different things. One, I don't know anything about business, right? So I can talk to dead people, but I don't know how to do a business plan.
I love you're just like, I don't know how to fucking do business. I'll talk to dead people all day long, but
yeah, I can read to you what your grandma has to say, but don't ask me to do a spreadsheet. Don't ask me to like I know nothing. People are like, do you have an email list? And I'm like, I mean, I eat people's emails. Like, I don't know. So I started working with a business coach, and that's been really, really helpful. But yeah, so I would say that has been a space of me having to grow. And then, you know, if like I'm just being completely vulnerable and honest, the biggest pushback I think that I have found throughout this whole process hasn't been the work with the people. It hasn't been receiving messages. It's been more so of just like the energy that I receive from individuals that just do not maybe align with what I'm doing. And yeah, people can be harsh. I mean, I think that that's the thing is we live in a place where people can be harsh, and a lot of people don't like necessarily the idea of the unknown. And then there's like a whole point of, you know, wanting to make sure that, you know, like my family is comfortable with what I'm doing and that they're accepting of it, or, you know, whatever that may be. But then I've had to learn that I again, like we had talked about earlier, you just have to do what you have to do, and you just have to flow with it. And so I think the biggest thing that I have found for myself in this last year is there's just been a lot of growth in my own self-confidence, and just like making sure that, you know, I remember the core reasons why I started this, and just being like really, really true to that, and then staying consistent with it. And so, you know, when I have months that don't flow as intensely as the ones before, I try to find different spaces of like gratitude for it, and like, how can I dive into this in a different way? And yeah, I've really learned how to let go of like the financial spaces and a lot of the unknown, because a lot of my work is, I mean, like 95% unknown. When I sit with a client, I have no idea what we're going to be doing and all of things like that when I'm giving a reading. And so it's just been a lot of trust, but, you know, business aspect, getting clients and things. I have fortunately been pretty good with all of that. I mean, I get a lot of word of mouth, a lot of people that receive readings and then tell their friends. So that's really nice. But honestly, I think the biggest thing is just not letting other people bring me down with some of their negativity.
So I have two things that I want to ask you. The first thing is, where do these people find you that feel like they have to like spread negativity? Because like, I'm a big block person. Like, if you're going to come at me with any kind of negativity, like, I just like shut it down. Like, big middle finger, there's the block button, kind of go fuck yourself kind of thing. Took me a while to get there, but that's kind of where I'm at now. So I don't really see much hate now. And maybe you're in the beginning stages of that, but where does that hate come from? Like, who is it?
Well, you know, some of them I don't know, because they're in my emails. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know who some of them are. Other times people will find their way into just like my DMs or my messages, and they'll just, and it's interesting. It always starts off in the same tone. Where does this information come from? And then I just share, it comes from the higher divine. Okay. So does it come from a space of like positive or negative? And then go into that. And then it always ends with, so God isn't telling you this, or so Jesus isn't giving you information, or, you know, whoever their specific person is that they're, you know, praying to, or, you know, confiding in. And, you know, I just share with everyone that all of my space comes from energy of love and light. Whatever you sit with, I encourage you to lean on that during our session together. And then, you know, it's pretty, you know, I've been told that it's devil's work, or that like I'm just like coming from a negative space, or you know, I had an incident where I was in a room of a group of people that I didn't know very well, and that all, you know, my work got brought up, and then it was well, you just take advantage of people, like all of that stuff that you do, like, all fake, and like how
I've heard that before.
And so it's like one of those things where I'm just like, okay, well, to each their own, like carry on. But yeah.
We're experimenting here. Sorry.
We are. I see that. I love it though. That is true flowing, right?
Don't
just
drop the baby. Yeah. Oh shoot. Now I even forgot what my next question was. I knew it was something about working with people and I do not remember. Oh, yes, I do. Okay. And this is just what happens in real life, right? We get distracted.
Yep.
Five little babies. So let's say somebody wants to go have a psychic reading, whether that be with you or somebody else, because there's people kind of listening to this podcast all over the country, all over North America, all over the world, really.
Yeah.
What do they look for? Like, how do you choose a psychic? Do you just like, I mean, for me, I just went to you and like other people, like as it comes to me kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if like somebody's like, I want a psychic reading. Like, how do they navigate that process?
You know, I'm sure it varies. For me, it's been like the biggest has been word of mouth. You know, there's different shops that you can go to that have psychic readers. There's a lot of people online. God, there's so many individuals. Maybe what I suggest, you know, when going into it is, do you have like a connection with that individual? If you have time to like, you know, see what they're about or hear them speaking, you know, whether that's like their Instagram page or Facebook or whatever it may be, seeing if there's like a sense of connection. And then also like going into it, there's so many individuals that go into it with a really closed mind that like it's not going to work. I laugh whenever I get a skeptic. It's like the first thing I receive when they sit down is like, she's not going to believe you. And that's the first thing I open with then. I'm like, oh, so you don't believe in this work, huh? And then they giggle and it's like icebreaker done. Okay, cool. But yeah, more so just like the authenticity. Do you feel connected during it? And then just allow yourself to be as open as possible. You know, it's not needed for the psychic or the individual who you're reading if they're actually in tuned and can receive that information. It's more so for yourself. The more open you can be to it, the more you're going to receive. And then the more you're going to like actually allow yourself to like digest and receive and like take home with you. But yeah, I mean, like, I suppose you could Google, you could do actually, now that I think about it, yeah, my first like psychic reading I ever had was in Sioux City with psychic Susanna.
No way.
Yeah. And
that is awesome.
Yeah, and so I just kind of stumbled upon her, but so I mean, I don't know if she still works in Sioux City or if she's still.
I don't know. Was she the one over right by like Hamilton or Hy-Vee on Gordon?
And she would jump on the radios in the morning. And I just like remember her always being like, hello, Sioux City. And I was just like, who is this lady? I have to meet her. And so I literally just went to her because it was every Wednesday morning she was on the radio. And I absolutely loved listening to her raspy voice in the morning that you could barely understand. And so that's why I was drawn to it. So I think that there's any sense of curiosity in individuals who are like, yeah, I'd like to dive into that, then just like go for it. Don't allow yourself to like sit with fear and hold back in boundaries. And if it's not for you, it's not. But it can also be a really fun time, and it's not always like a super intense space. Sometimes it's really lighthearted and fun, and really encouraging, motivating things come through sometimes for people.
I know I enjoy it. I think I've only had it done just a handful of times. I'm probably due for another reading.
Yeah.
I should just make it part of my self-care.
Right. Yeah, most of us are right now.
So you did talk a little, go ahead.
Nope, keep going.
I was going to say, you talked a little bit about self-love kind of in the beginning and how that's a big part of your mentorship program. So I know we're kind of coming up on time, but I do really want to touch on self-love and maybe give some tips, tricks, pointers for people on what they can do to start or enhance that journey.
Yeah. And so what a great time. You know, there's so many individuals who are being forced to be home right now. And, you know, if you're not an essential worker in your home, there's a lot of things that you can do to help balance that. And then it's also a great time to really dive in. I think the biggest thing is, once you start the journey of self-love, you have to allow yourself grace and permission. Give yourself permission that it's not going to feel authentic at the beginning, that it's going to feel foreign. You're going to feel like maybe you're not doing it right, or you're not connecting as deep as you'd like to. With all things, we have to start somewhere. I know for me, I have been doing a lot of journaling, and, you know, there's only so many things that I can write in my journal about my day here at home. So I've been starting doing a lot of writing prompts. So like just random ones. One of my favorite is I always encourage people when they're in my mentorship program and when we're diving into self-love, always writing yourself a love letter. That's one of like the very first things that we dive into. What inspires you? What are certain things that you enjoy about yourself? And then there's, you know, spaces where we dive into what are things that you want to grow from. None of it should be looked at as a negative. You're exactly where you need to be right now for whatever reason that is. And if you're just moving into that self-love space, you know, it's funny. I've actually had individuals, I ask a lot of questions the first week of working with people. And one of them is, do you practice self-love? And a lot of people will, you know, share their answers. And if it's a no, well, I ask them, you know, do you have a favorite movie? And they're like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, do you ever watch that favorite movie? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, then you practice self-love. Self-love doesn't have to be this really big in-depth bit, like, I don't know, thing that we have to like carve out time to make sure we're doing it. It's just, it's being intentional. You know, if you're watching your favorite movie, well, why are you watching it? Do you need some lighthearted energy? Do you need a good cry? What is the energy around why we're moving into this? Meditating is also a great one, but it's the biggest pushback that I get from people. But if you have any, you know, any of the listeners, if they have any questions over meditating, send me messages. I have a shit ton of meditations I can send to people. They're not all silent guided ones or the jam. And then also simple things like Epsom salt baths. People like carve out time, take a damn bath, like have a glass of wine, or if you're into plant medicine, like whatever it is, like do things that fill your soul, and that's self-love. And so it doesn't have to be heavy. You don't have to dive into like healing past traumas right now. We're already dealing with such weird, frantic energy. Just like do sweet things for yourself. For a lot of those who are at home by themselves right now, I encourage you to take like a date night to yourself, make your favorite dinner, watch your favorite movie, drink some wine, like really, really drop into that space and that energy. And just so much can kind of trickle from that it's good. It's my jam.
I love how you said it can be as simple as just watching like your favorite movie. Like, what's your favorite movie? You know, and I think that people do tend to overcomplicate like everything. Love, meditation, exercising, like we get stuck in this all or nothing mindset, or we get stuck in this perfectionism mindset. And if it can't look like what so-and-so has on Instagram, then it's not worthy, right?
Yeah, it's not achievable. I can't do it. And there's also, you know, I work with a lot of moms. Majority of the people I work with are moms, and they're busy. Moms are busy as shit. I mean, I was a nanny, and that's busy. I can't imagine being a full-time mom. And so even like
the ones run around in the background.
Like even as simple as like, okay, we all have to make dinner, right? Like you have to make dinner for the family. Cool. So like while you're like sauteing your stuff, like drop into some intentions. Like, what do you want this food to do for your children? What do you want it to do for you? Like, is this a moment for you to just like find some stillness and like just to be like a part of like the present moment? That's self-love. I mean, it's just, there's little things, and that's like a lot of women or men or whoever I work with will tell me like, I just don't have time. And it's like, no, that's not true at all. You just don't know how to do like two birds, one stone. Let me help guide you into that. Like you can do everything the same and then just add little things throughout the day that just really uplift that space and energy.
I love that. And you can always be intentional with your time. So anytime somebody says like, I don't have time, I always challenge them like, well, how often are you watching TV? How much time are you watching Netflix? How much time are you spending scrolling on your phone? Like one of the things that I always suggest is taking a time audit. You know, a lot of times we don't realize how much time we waste in a day until we track it. I mean, I even did that today.
Yeah, I saw that.
And you know, I do this all the time because I'm like, oh, this is only going to take me
15 minutes and then it ends up taking me 45 minutes, or I'll say, oh, I'll do that in a half an hour, and then an hour later goes by and I haven't done anything, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's being consistent and making sure that you hold yourself accountable, and finding, that's another thing, is a lot of people who are working from home right now, it's like finding your own way. And then like also like what a really, really great opportunity to find out when you're most productive, and like how much time do you actually need in a day to get all of your shit done? And then what do you do with the rest of the time? And it's like, there's so much that we can be learning about ourselves right now. We just have to like shift our mindset and just like, keep trying to bring that awareness to individuals. And, there's a lot of growth that's happening, and the beauty in it, which I guess I don't know if it's beauty, but like, we're not alone. You're not going alone. You're not going through it alone. We're all dealing with it.
I think this puts us, and the word that comes to mind is like back to square one, or like a level playing field, because we are all experiencing this, the entire world, this oneness about it, like millionaires and homeless people, you and me, like everyone in between, we are in it. Like there's no escape from this. You have to sit with your shit. And so I feel like it kind of puts us back on this like square one, like, okay, the universe is gifting you the opportunity to kind of restructure what your day looks like. And when we do get back to quote unquote normal, what are you going to take with you and what are you going to leave behind?
Exactly. And again, what you said, the universe has carved out this time because we have been asking, and whether it's not just that we've been asking and, whatever it is that's going on in the universe is like, hey, those people on planet Earth, we need to wake them up a little bit. The way that the current situation is being navigated isn't the most positive. So it's like, okay, we have so much hate in the world. How do we rise up with love? How do we like continue to send that? And how do we allow ourselves to stay in a space where, it's more peace than anxiousness? And what does that look like? And how do we spread that? And, I encourage them, take a step out of your comfort zone. And then, but also, this time doesn't have to be time of being super productive. Again, we're all trying to navigate it in a way that works for us. And I just keep trying to motivate people to do that so they don't allow themselves to sit in like a really stagnant energy.
And I do, like, this just came to me that I'm just saying, I don't know if this necessarily pertains to what you were talking about, but I think this is also an opportunity for new leaders, the love and light leaders, to really rise up, because I feel like we've come from such a, and this has nothing to do with men or women, but I feel like we've come from such a masculine, push, aggressive, busy. Our worth is based on production and output and like treating people as machines. And it's like, okay, this isn't working. And now it's time to shift how we operate as a human being, as a human species. And the ones who are putting positivity out in the world, even though there's a lot of chaos going on, they're going to be the new leaders. They're going to be the ones that help everybody kind of, and like I get goosebumps even saying it, because we've been in such a fearful, panic-ridden mindset, and that doesn't work. That creates more chaos. It creates more fear. It creates disease and illness. And how do we heal one another? By being positive and putting positive energy out there. And so I don't know, man, this is just, it's crazy.
It's about listening to individuals who need you to hold that space for them. And then it's also about allowing yourselves to be that individual who can share with others when you need space being held for you. I mean, and there's this like push and vulnerability, because everything that's happening now, it's new. And so we're all feeling it on different wavelengths, and just being able to like be open with people that you feel safe with to like go to that place and to really express. And, I think the other thing with all of it is, I've been getting a lot of phone calls of individuals. Last week slowed down, but when it all started happening, my phone was going off. And what I learned is people don't necessarily need advice, and they don't need me to respond to them. They just like needed to be heard for a moment.
Yes. And
that's it. And so I think that, we can join together and like keep checking on your people. I have a grandmother who is in a nursing home right now. And, again, it's like, with the whole coronavirus and stuff, it's not about us, it's not about me. It's about, the individuals who are going to be affected by this in a negative way. And hearing, our elders who are in the nursing homes that can't leave, can't have visitors, all of that kind of stuff. And then to still hear that there's so much love and there's so much hope that goes on with all of them. And I just, making it a priority to reach out to the individuals who need to express or need to have, any kind of connection. I think that, why not take advantage of that? And we're all home. So when people aren't answering my calls, I'm like, you either need alone time or you're ignoring me.
I know you're not doing anything.
Yeah, I know you're home.
I love that. All right. So to kind of land this plane,
yeah.
what do you want to leave listeners with today?
I suppose I just have a lot of gratitude for everyone who even just showed up to listen to this and who gave themselves some time today or whenever it comes out and they listen to it to just carve out that time for themselves and just like remember everything is a part of an ebb and flow, and this too will pass, and there will be a lot of greatness that comes from it. And just, drop yourself into, once that time actually comes, that when you go out, it's done with just all gratitude and excitement. And if there's anything that I can do for anyone, please feel free to reach out. You can get me at Soul Centered Readings, and I would love to help navigate in any way I could. And then thank you, Sasha, for allowing me time to do this. This is my first podcast, and I'm stoked on it.
I just love this. I feel like I could just talk to you for hours. So.
Same. And then I can't wait once I have my podcast up and going. I can't wait to have you as a person to interview because I know you have some weird shit you have also experienced.
Oh, I'm here for all the weird. I feel like if there's an experience to be had, I've probably had it in some capacity. I like to say that I'm not necessarily an expert on any one thing, but I definitely know a lot or a little about a lot.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's jack of all trades. But anyways, thank you. I love this. This was awesome.
It was so sweet.
And then I will put all of your contact information in the show notes. So for anybody listening, if you want to get a hold of Sierra, just scroll to the bottom. I'll have all of her links there so you can contact her. I highly suggest everybody gets a reading with Sierra. I had one and I'm due for another, and they're just, it's really incredible what can happen and it's very enlightening.
Yeah.
But you do be open to it. But I just remember feeling afterwards, I was like, oh, this is just so cool. So thank you. I loved this.
Thank you. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Stay safe, stay sane, stay grounded, do all the things you need for yourself.